It is a Wednesday, and we welcome you into Southern Sports Now. Hope you're having a great start to your day. Glad you're joining us. I'm Chase Robinson, and we have got a great hour of sports talk lined up for you. We've got everything from SEC football, college baseball, college softball to get to on the show today. Brad Law of the Auburn Sports Network will join us about 10:20. We'll talk some Auburn baseball as the Tigers getting ready to host a regional this weekend. So a lot to dive into. Want to remind you the ways you can watch the show. Of course, we're on the East Alabama Now YouTube page. We're on the East Alabama Now Facebook page. You can follow us on Twitter as well at EAN_sports. But they're on Facebook and YouTube. It gives you the opportunity to comment and interact with us throughout the show. You can drop your comments on whatever we're talking about. Or if you just want to drop a comment in, and we'll get to it as we move through the show today. On YouTube as well, make sure to like, to share with your friends, and spread the word about Southern Sports Now. We come to you live each and every weekday from 10 to 11 a.m. And boy, do we have much to get to today. But as always, we'll start out with our top 5 headlines of the day. First up, Braves lose again in Oakland, 2-1. The final last night, not much offense going at all. Kevin Pillar had the home run to give the one run to the Oakland A's, but it's been a tough last couple of days for the Braves offense. They looked so good over the weekend against Philadelphia. They make the trip over to Oakland, and the bats have not looked great up in the northern part of California there. They'll look to bounce back tonight, though, as they will kind of finish out the series, hopefully avoid a sweep by the A's. But tough loss last night to one of the worst teams in Major League Baseball. Mark Sears foregoing the NBA draft. He will return to the Crimson Tide. This is a big news for Alabama basketball. Will more guys follow suit? Maybe another name coming in the next couple of days that will come back to the Crimson Tide. But I think that's big for Mark Sears. He's a guy probably wouldn't have gone too high in the draft, so I think that's a really smart decision by Mark Sears to stay with Alabama and to return to the court with Nate Oates and company. He's a guy that can bring some really veteran leadership to this team, and I know that's what Coach Nate Oates wants and needs. And so Mark Sears will be back on the hardwood for the Alabama Crimson Tide. No outcome yet on the SEC scheduling model, and we'll get to this much more coming up in the next segment. Not a lot has happened as far as news coming out. They are discussing it, and right now as we speak, discussing it. The athletic directors, the school presidents, the coaches, they're all there discussing it, and so we'll see if a solution comes out of it. But right now, no scheduling model has come out. You've got to imagine that it will happen this week, but nothing as of yet. Piedmont High School, Terrace Ridley, longtime girls basketball coach, stepping down. She has coached there at Piedmont for the last 17 seasons. Just coached her daughter through Piedmont. Her daughter just graduates, so Coach Terrace Ridley has stepped down her post as girls basketball coach, and so the Piedmont Bulldogs will begin their search for their next head coach very soon. And softball players, parents, Grit Softball Academy has now opened in Anniston. And coming up tonight on the EAN Local News, and then tomorrow on the show, we're going to kind of give you more on what Grit Softball Academy is. But you can check them out on Facebook as they're excited to now be working with softball players here in East Alabama. But it is open in Anniston right there at the Calhoun County Sports Complex, formerly known as Woodland Park there in Anniston. And so we'll have much more on them coming up tonight on the EAN Local News and tomorrow here on Southern Sports Now. But that's big there's a lot of different things for baseball players to get training and stuff, but to have a softball facility now in Anniston, that is very big. So Grit Softball Academy now open there in Anniston. Much to get to today. Brad Law coming up at 10:20. Next, we'll talk SEC spring meetings. We'll hear from some of the coaches as well. Stick around as we roll on this Wednesday of Southern Sports Now.
We're excited to announce that starting this April, we'll be entering into the cabinet business. With that in mind, we're going to change our name to Ted's Floors and Beyond. The Beyond encompasses everything that we do in addition to all of your flooring needs.
We've partnered with Welberg Cabinet Company, who makes the highest quality cabinets in the industry.
So when you're ready for a complete kitchen or bathroom remodel, shop Ted's.
Since 1993, WM Grocery has been a major part of our local community. WM offers the very best in fresh produce and an outstanding meat department. WM also has many local products not found anywhere else and fresh sushi every day. If you need an event catered, come see Mrs. K at any WM store. Curbside pickup is also available for your online grocery orders. Be sure to download the WM app for all the deals of the week and shopper rewards. Go check them out today at any of their locations.
We take pride in our community and appreciate your business.
For metal buildings in Alabama and the Southeast, Waldrop Manufacturing is your one-stop source. A Waldrop metal building provides the coverage and protection your investments need. They specialize in carports, RV covers, portable buildings, and storage buildings. Stop paying rent for storage. With Waldrop's price per foot, you can actually save money by buying straight from the manufacturer. Waldrop buildings are guaranteed because Waldrop manufactures buildings with U.S. steel right here in Calhoun County. Waldrop Manufacturing, serving the entire Southeast. Give them a call today.
East Alabama Now Local News has been bringing you the best local news coverage for 6 months. And now we're growing.
EAN News will be available to you 5 nights a week with new faces, new content, and coverage that is second to none.
We'll be bringing you the weather that matters to your neighborhood and to you. Rain or shine, you'll be in the know.
Sports always brings communities together, and EAN Sports will have coverage of all of our area events.
East Alabama Now, local news, new faces, same great coverage. Starting 5 days a week, May 1st. EAN Local News, your news on your schedule.
Ted's Floors and Beyond brings you this segment of Southern Sports Now. And Ted's Floors and Beyond, they partnered with Welborn Cabinet. That's the Beyond part, to now be able to offer you a complete kitchen or bath makeover. Now, what does that include, you ask? That includes cabinets, countertops, flooring, backsplashes, and tile showers. Now, if you're just looking for some floor, Ted's is the place to go as well. They've got hardwood, laminate, carpet, tile, and luxury vinyl. Lifetime warranty on flooring installation, 0% interest financing for 12 months, and free in-a-home estimates. They're locally owned and operated, which means you can go to the store there at Ted's on Highway 431 in Anniston, and you will be greeted and helped, and to help you get what you need, to get what you want and like. Ted's Floors and Beyond is the place to go now, not only for flooring, but also for a complete kitchen or bath makeover. SEC spring meetings going on right now down in Destin, Florida. As we speak, coaches, athletic directors, presidents are in meetings and rooms and trying to figure out what's next for this conference. Now, it's on the football side of things, you've got the big news of what's the conference scheduling going to look like. Are we going to see an 8-game schedule like we have now? Are we going to see a 9-game schedule? That is what a lot of coaches are favoring. That's the question. What are we going to see? A lot of teams, I think, are worried about a 9-game schedule because if they have one more conference game, that could hurt their opportunity to have a bowl game. But you look at the kind of the other side of this, you have another league game, you get another win, you may have a better chance of getting into the the 12-team playoff when it expands. So coaches are looking at it from both sides, but there's been no agreement yet. And I think Greg Sankey said yesterday, they're not far from a decision being made, but a lot of work has to be done in order for this decision to be made. You have some very powerful people, these college football coaches, who all want different things. But as Kirby Smart said yesterday, he doesn't know why there's even an issue, why they're even having this discussion. And I'm the same way. I don't know why it's taking so long to come out and say that there's going to be a 9-game schedule. I think that's what many insiders have pointed to, what Greg Sankey even said, that they're one of the only conferences that are still playing an 8-game schedule. Most have gone to 9. You don't want the other conferences to outdo you and have a better chance of getting more league wins and getting in the playoffs. So I don't know why they're waiting around and not saying that we're going to have a 9-game schedule. I think that's what the outcome's going to be. It's just going to take a little bit to get there, I guess. And, I understand them wanting to hear out all the coaches and everything, but the 3 permanent opponents, 6 rotating, I think is a great format. And I think that's what they should do and stick with, and I think that'll be best for the league. Now, of course, coaches have a lot to say about this, and all the coaches will have a turn to speak. Just several of them have spoken so far down at the spring meetings. But, of course, Nick Saban has a lot to say on this. Here's Nick Saban on what he thinks about a 9-game conference schedule.
One of the more difficult things with going to 9 games is, we've tried to schedule 2 out-of-conference Power 5 games to try to improve our strength of schedule over the next, 7, 8, 9, 10 years. And if we go to 9 games, we'll have to unwind that. So my deal was always play more SEC games because we couldn't get other people to schedule. So now I think there's more people in tune to scheduling, so having a balance is probably the most important thing.
What Coach Saban was saying makes sense on the fact that, they have scheduled a lot of these games out way early, years in advance. There's games in 2032 that probably have already been scheduled. So you'll have to kind of rework that. But overall, I think it's better to play more conference games, even though it is good to see some of these out-of-conference games. They've lost some of their meaning, though, I think, especially, when, Alabama opens up with, Duke or Virginia Tech or whoever it is. Some of those games have kind of lost their meaning. And so another conference game, though, would give a little more meaning, I think. Nick Saban also spoke on a level playing field, especially when it comes to NIL, transfer portal, and things like that. Here's what Nick Saban had to say about this level playing field.
I made the statement years ago, and I got very criticized for it. Is this what we want college football to become? So now it's kind of becoming that. And I don't think it's going to be a level playing field because some people are showing a willingness to spend more than others, where if you want to bring the NFL into it, they have a salary cap. They have all the things that level the playing field. And we could put guidelines on some of this stuff that would do the same thing.
He is right about that. A lot of these things are not causing a level playing field. And he's right. The game is changing, and you have to change with it. He originally said that back in 2012 when he was talking about the RPO and how the game on the field is changing. But that also now correlates to the things off the field and needing to adjust to that. And that's hard for some coaches to want to adjust to the craziness really that's happening off the field, and instead of having to change to what's going on the field. But he's right that they could adapt some things that are going on in the NFL and adapt that in college. You don't want to get this amateur sport of college football and make it like a professional sport and professional model. But some of the things they have in place could make it more of a level playing field, as Coach Saban was saying. But again, you want to keep the amateur sport, the pro sport, and not mix those two, because that also could cause some problems. Auburn head coach Hugh Freeze was also there, and here is what he had to say. And he really wants hands off of this scheduling decision.
When people ask me about 8 or 9 games, I'm like, talk to Dr. Roberts and John Cohen. What is best for Auburn? What is best for the SEC? Are those things the same? I know all those discussions will take place. From a football coach's perspective, the biggest question I would have is just, as important as those games are to us, how does the playoff look at it? If you're an SEC opponent and you're really quality and you won a lot of good games, but you drop 2 to top teams or a third one, do you still get in? And when the playoff expands, and I think all of those are unknown.
Another thing we're not talking about with this is the fact that with more conference games, the conference has an opportunity to make more money from their new TV partner, ESPN. And so this decision may be talked about amongst the coaches and the athletic directors, but in the end, if the schools are going to get more money, you have to imagine that's the route they're going to take. And ESPN is willing to put a lot of money on the table for the SEC. CBS, of course, losing the rights to the SEC. This will be the last year that we'll be watching the SEC on CBS and hearing that wonderful theme song coming in. ESPN will take over, so they're going to have a lot of control over what happens here. And if they put more money on the table, you have to imagine the SEC will add that one more conference game to get that money from ESPN. So that's another angle that we're looking at through this as well. Lots going on at the SEC spring meetings. We'll talk much more about that as we move through the week, and certainly if any decisions come down from the conference on the scheduling model. But we'll take a time out here because we're going to talk some college baseball on the other side, specifically with the Auburn Tigers. Brad Law of the Auburn Sports Network joins us next.
We're excited to announce that starting this April, we'll be entering into the cabinet business. With that in mind, we're going to change our name to Ted's Floors and Beyond. The Beyond encompasses everything that we do in addition to all of your flooring needs.
We've partnered with Welber Cabinet Company, who makes the highest quality cabinets in the industry.
So when you're ready for a complete kitchen or bathroom remodel, shop Ted's.
Since 1993, WM Grocery has been a major part of our local community. WM offers the very best in fresh produce and an outstanding meat department. WM also has many local products not found anywhere else and fresh sushi every day. If you need an event catered, come see Mrs. K at any WM store. Curbside pickup is also available for your online grocery orders. Be sure to download the WM app for all the deals of the week and shopper rewards. Go check them out today at any of their locations.
We take pride in our community and appreciate your business.
Hi, I'm Dr. Rodney Sneed from both CARES and Direct Primary Care. Direct Primary Care is an exciting new model of medical care growing on both the East and West Coast. It's been recommended by Forbes and the American Academy of Family Physicians and others for individuals or small businesses with or without health insurance. The pure simplicity of a membership model streamlines the burden of medical care. It eliminates 60% of the overhead. That streamlining allows providers time to focus on patients with free, no copay, no deductible, unhurried office visits or telehealth visits with minimal waiting room time. It produces same or next day appointments and access by text or telephone during and after hours. It saves you from leaving work, wasting time and getting exposed in a waiting room, and the convenience and cost with barriers removed helps one avoid letting problems like a sore throat turn into an expensive ER or hospital visit for pneumonia. If you're interested, Search the web for CARES Direct Primary Care.
Southern Sports Now from East Alabama Now. I'm Chase Robinson Gleinger, joining us here on this Wednesday morning as we're getting ready for a big weekend of college baseball. Regionals get going, and we wrapped up the conference tournaments. Now moving into the NCAA tournament, and we're excited to talk some Auburn baseball now as we welcome on Brad Law, East Alabama native, joining us this morning. Brad, how are you today?
We're doing great, Chase. How are you?
Doing well, and I know it's an exciting time for Auburn baseball right now, and we've talked about it before. I mean, this is a team that has won some really good games, some really good series. They, went out in the SEC tournament, but now have a really exciting chance to host a regional.
Yeah, it's the second year in a row that Auburn is hosting a regional at Plainsman Park. It's the first time in school history that Auburn has hosted back-to-back seasons. And so everybody here is really fired up about it. This is a team that was 5-10, Chase, as you remember, in the first half of SEC play. And Butch Thompson and company sort of hit the reset button, and they said, we're going to treat this like the second half of league play. Clean slate. Forget 5-10. We're 0-0. And over their last 5 series, they won all 5. They went 12-3. They swept the last 2 regular season opponents and put themselves in this position to go from a team that was fighting for a chance just to qualify for the NCAA tournament to the team that earned the number 13 overall seed nationally and is hosting again. So a remarkable turnaround, a team that when it got healthy and got all its pieces in the right places, really started to thrive.
And Brad, I know you have a front row seat for Auburn baseball and have for several years now doing the games on the radio broadcast. What have you seen from Butch Thompson? What is kind of a background on Butch Thompson that has kind of led him to get this Auburn program in the direction that he has?
That's a really good question. And how much time do we have in the interview? I'll tell you about Butch is his consistency. He is a speak softly, carry a big stick kind of leader. He's not going to yell and scream all the time. He is a blue-collar hard worker, a genuine guy himself. And as you know, in any type of leadership, it doesn't matter if it's sports or education or business or whatever the field may be. If your leaders feel like, if the leader of any organization feels like, or if the people who work for any leader, I should say, feel like that leader cares about them as individuals, they will climb over walls and go through any barrier that's necessary for that leader. And I think that's the kind of culture that Coach Thompson has cultivated here. He cares about these guys. He thinks long-term about their future. There's no job that he's not willing to do himself. And what that does is creates this culture where everybody around him wants to give their best every day for the betterment of the program. He is excellent at getting guys to think about big picture things, about focusing on one thing that they could do to get better on this day. You know, you don't have to pick 10 things and be better at 10 things. Pick one thing and be steady in that approach. And I think his steadiness, his consistency, his genuine nature, and the fact that he's got this wisdom. He's been a coach in college for over 31 years now, and he has this wisdom, and guys see that, and they want to give their best for his program.
Just from this team this year, what do you like about this team? What's a couple of things that stand out to you about this group, this 2023 Auburn baseball team?
Yeah, when I think about this group, I think about a group, Chase, that had to replace 5 pitchers that were drafted last year off of a College World Series team. And so you came into this year and you had 2 real veterans and a lot of ultra-talented young guys in the rotation. And we all know pitching is key at this level. So you had Joseph Gonzalez and you had Tommy Sheehan, guys who were instrumental in Auburn's run to the College World Series a year ago. Joseph is a starter and Tommy is a bullpen guy. And they were both going to be counted on to be anchors, veteran anchors in a starting rotation. And then they took Chase Alsop, who looked to be the heir apparent to the closing role, left behind by Blake Burkhalter, and they were going to stretch him out and turn him into a starter. That was the plan anyway for February. Well, Joseph has shoulder soreness and, as it turns out, is only able to pitch one outing this year. Tommy Sheehan continues to struggle with injuries. He's only able to pitch 2 or 3 times this year. So now you have your 2 veterans on your staff that were available, 4, maybe 5 appearances all year long and only 2 starts. And as good as Joseph was in that start, it's a really long season. So now what you have are these younger guys, new pieces that you brought in, like Tanner Bauman and Zach Crotchfelt and Drew Nelson and Christian Herberholtz from Scottsboro. These guys who were going to be role players this year and key parts in the future. And now they're pressed into having to be key parts now. It took some time for those guys to develop. They have developed. They're continuing to develop. And over the second half of the season, Christian Herberholtz was one of the leaders in ERA in the Southeastern Conference. And Tommy Vale, a guy who had never been a starter, but he's developed by Coach Thompson and Darren Schoenrock, who's a veteran head coach who replaces Tim Hudson this year as the volunteer assistant pitching coach for the team. You got 70 years of coaching experience and coaching pitchers specifically at the college level. I can't think of 2 better guys to develop a young pitching staff to help guys turn into starters who haven't been before, like a Vale and an Alsop. And now we look at it here as we approach the month of June, and you have some stability, and you have some production, and you have a lot of, most importantly, confidence in your pitching staff. The pitchers have confidence. The other players have confidence in those pitchers. And you're set up, I think, in a really good spot as you enter regional. So I like that about this team, number one. And I like the consistency of the batting order. A guy like Bryson Ware, who struggled a bit outside of conference play his first 2 years at Auburn, sets the new single-season home run record this year. Cooper McMurray transfers in from Kansas, a power-hitting lefty and a terrific defensive replacement for Sonny DeShera at first base. Cole Foster moves from second base to shortstop and commits 5 errors all year long. That's it. Kaysen Howell, the veteran center fielder, plus a couple of exciting youngsters in Chris Stanfield and Ike Irish, who made big strides their freshman years, and they were really productive. So you ask what I like, that's a long answer. There is a lot to like about this team.
There is, for sure. We're talking with Brad Law of the Auburn Sports Network, and you mentioned a name I want to talk about. That is Bryson Ware. I feel like Auburn always has that guy that's fun to watch on offense, and that this year he's one of those guys that are just always fun to watch on offense, and incredible numbers this year for the senior Bryson Ware.
He got here a couple of years ago, and the first time you saw him, you said, he looks like a Major League Baseball player. He's tall, he's long, he's athletic, he has power, he has speed, he has a cannon for an arm. The problem with Bryson was that he swung and missed at every slider off the plate his first 2 years on campus. He just could not hit a breaking ball. He was a terror against a fastball, but he couldn't lay off of a breaking ball. And last year he was used primarily. Now he still had a pivotal role in Auburn going to Omaha last year because he was used as a defensive replacement late, and he saved a minimum of 2 games last year for Auburn in that role. And he never pouted, never hung his head. He kept working, and it's a wonderful story for young players. It's a wonderful story for adults who are struggling. Like, don't stop what you're doing. Continue to put in the work. And if you'll do that, eventually when you work on it long enough, if you'll stay at it, it can get better, and you're allowed to improve. And this year, his recognition of balls that were off the plate has improved dramatically. He is swinging less at pitches that aren't strikes. He's still connecting just as much with pitches that are strikes, and he's forcing pitchers to throw him more strikes. And as a result, he's hit 24 home runs, more homers in a single season than any Auburn player ever. And that's not all that he's doing. He hit .333 in conference play. He was one of the top hitters in conference games this year, one of the top hitters on the team overall. So he's hitting for average, he's hitting for power, he still has great speed, and he's made a transition to third base as well, and he shows off his arm and his fielding ability there. So Bryson Ware is as easy a guy to pull for as we've ever seen in this program.
This weekend, regionals begin. Like we said, Auburn hosting. They've got a good field coming into the Plains. Got Samford, Penn, Southern Miss, Auburn, all there playing. What do you make of this regional?
I think it's an outstanding regional. I think, Pim, when you have an Ivy League team that comes in, those guys know how to play the game, and they don't often give you a lot. They don't make a lot of errors. They have pretty good strike zone recognition themselves. You better go out and earn it, and that's against the 4 seed. The 2 and the 3, Southern Miss is a team that 2 or 3 weeks ago was trying to make a case for hosting itself. Their head coach is retiring after an illustrious career. They will be fired up. They have an ace starter who's dynamic. Tanner, I believe it's Perry. I could be wrong about that. We'll dive into their prep a little more later in the week. But he's a guy who struck out 15 in their last game in their conference tournament. So the question is going to be, do they use him against Samford, or do they hedge a little bit and try to use him against Auburn? Samford is a team that Auburn played once this year at home. The return game was rained out, but that's an in-state opponent. That's a team that can make its season by trying to come in and make a statement at Plainsman Park. I expect the atmosphere to be dynamic, and Auburn has been they've been unbeatable the last 3 regionals in which they've played, a couple on the road, and then last year at Plainsman Park. So I think you'll see a team that's dialed in and focused, and they have to be, because there's really good competition coming in here this weekend.
There sure is. We're talking with Brad Law, talking some Auburn baseball from the Auburn Sports Network. Brad, what will it take for this team to make another run to Omaha like we saw last year? What do you think are some key components to get Auburn back?
I think you got to continue to get the consistency in the pitching staff that we saw over the last 5 weeks of the regular season. Christian Herberholtz was injured against Ole Miss. He didn't pitch against Missouri. And he didn't pitch in the SEC tournament either. But Auburn's expecting to get him back and back at 100%. Tommy Vale had a stomach bug and only pitched a couple of innings of relief against Missouri. He's back at 100% now. So those guys in particular were 2 of the ERA leaders in the conference over the last 5 weeks of the regular season. And you must have quality starting pitching in regional play, and then looking beyond that into a super regional, which is just a 2 out of 3 series, and Auburn's won 5 of those in a row. So I think doing what you're doing, here's something, one of the tenets that Coach Thompson talks about. When you give less than you've given, if you give less than you've given previously, your results are going to fall off. If you try to start reaching for more, you may overreach and your performance is going to fall off. Just do what you've been doing. And Auburn's approach at the plate has been disciplined, and its approach on the mound has been aggressive, and they've executed well. The walks, which plagued Auburn as a pitching staff early in the season, have dropped way off. In fact, the number of walks given up by Auburn pitchers is now almost even with the number of walks drawn by Auburn hitters this year. Those numbers were way out of balance in the first half of the conference season. So keep doing what they've done. They've had remarkable success over the last 5 weeks of the regular season. Keep that same formula, and I think that's the recipe for moving on and advancing.
You mentioned Auburn has done very well in 2 out of 3 series. That's what they'll get in the super regionals, of course. How do you see a difference in this Auburn team from, like a tournament format or a single game to a series like we've seen Auburn play all these conference series? Is there a difference in what you see from this Auburn team of the difference of the kind of the game formats?
That's a real good question, and I'm curious to see it myself. I didn't notice a change in execution really last year in regionals or the super regional. Last year, Auburn had 3 games at home, and one of the big keys was scoring big numbers in the first inning. And last year in the regional against Southeastern Louisiana, Florida State, and UCLA, Auburn had early offense, and that changes the game plan. Coach Thompson says frequently you have a plan A, and sometimes you can stick with plan A for the long haul. And other times you got to move to plan B, C, D, E, and otherwise quickly. Well, last year, Auburn really didn't have to divert from plan A a whole lot because they were putting up 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 runs in the first inning. If Auburn's able to do that again, obviously, you'd take that. I'd sign up for that right now. I'll be interested to see how they arrange the pitching. Over the last few weeks, it would have been Alsop, Vale, Herberholtz. I don't know that that's how they arrange it for a regional or a super regional. And I think how you arrange your pitching for a regional where you're facing a 4 seed and then either a 2 or 3 and then to be determined, is a little different from a super regional where, game one becomes the most important game in that series. So maybe you throw a Tommy Vale on Saturday in the regional, but you throw him on Friday in the super to try to get game one. I think some of it too, Chase, is about your matchups and who's pitching for the other team. Last year, Oregon State had Cooper Jerpy, who was the number one amateur pitcher, certainly in the West and maybe in the country a season ago. And so Auburn tried, they played with their rotation a little bit and who matched up with Jerpy. And they were able to get games 1 and games 3. And Jerpy got game 2 of that series last year in Corvallis. So it's a little bit about matchups. And yeah, I think you do alter at least your pitching a little bit based on your opponent, game 1 of the regional, game 1 of the super.
Good stuff from Brad Law of the Auburn Sports Network. As we'll get ready for the Auburn Regional coming up this weekend. Brad, really appreciate you hopping on with us. Always grateful for your time. We'll talk to you again soon.
Always a pleasure, Chase. Thanks for having us on War Eagle.
Thanks, Brad. Brad Law of the Auburn Sports Network. You can hear him and Andy Burcham this weekend bring you Auburn baseball all across the Auburn Sports Network. But a good regional, like Brad was saying, down in the Plains. You got Auburn, Southern Miss, Samford, and Penn. This is going to be some good baseball played. Tough road for Auburn, but certainly think they're a team that could make their way into the Supers and back to Omaha. But we'll see coming up this weekend, beginning Friday there in Auburn. We'll grab a break here. Talk some Braves baseball, more college baseball talk up ahead, college softball. All that as we roll on. Southern Sports Now. Stick around.
We're excited to announce that starting this April, we'll be entering into the cabinet business. With that in mind, we're going to change our name to Ted's Floors and Beyond. The Beyond encompasses everything that we do in addition to all of your flooring needs.
We've partnered with Welber Cabinet Company, who makes the highest quality cabinets in the industry.
So when you're ready for a complete kitchen or bathroom remodel, shop Ted's.
EAN Sports is proud to bring you the best, most informative local sports content, and we want your help to be able to do that. If you have a story idea, a tip for our sportscast, or even a highlight clip you want to see on EAN Local Sports, send us an email, eansports23@gmail.com. You can follow us on Twitter @EAN_sports, or you can send it to the EAN News Facebook page. EAN Sports, bringing you the local sports happening in your community.
For metal buildings in Alabama and the Southeast, Waldrop Manufacturing is your one-stop source. A Waldrop metal building provides the coverage and protection your investments need. They specialize in carports, RV covers, portable buildings, and storage buildings. Stop paying rent for storage. With Waldrop's price per foot, you can actually save money by buying straight from the manufacturer. Waldrop buildings are guaranteed because Waldrop manufactures buildings with U.S. steel right here in Calhoun County. Waldrop Manufacturing, serving the entire Southeast. Give them a call today.
If you see some interesting weather phenomenon in your backyard here in East Alabama, send that to us. We would love to hear from you. Send that to us at the email address you see on your screen or through Facebook at EAN News.
Southern Sports Now on East Alabama Now. We're on Facebook. We're on YouTube. You can check us out. Share us with your friends. Like and comment. Would love to hear from you here on the show. You can send us an email, eansports23@gmail.com. Follow us on Twitter. Send us a direct message there at EAN_sports. But we are here with you on Facebook and YouTube every day live at 10 a.m. But if you miss it, of course, you can go back and watch the archived version there on both the East Alabama Now Facebook and YouTube. Atlanta Braves, not a great night last night. We've said that the last 2 nights, actually. Offense has not been looking good. Pitching has been decent. We can't blame this on the pitchers the last 2 nights. We've had to do that some this season, but the last 2 nights have not been on the pitchers. It's been on the offense, which is rare that we have to say that about this Braves team. 162 games, it's going to happen. I know. We're going to have series that are not great for Atlanta. We're going to have series that the offense couldn't hit anything. Well, we're at that point. Let's look at some highlights from last night's game. there in Oakland. It was a great way to start the game offensively for the Braves. Kevin Pillar, how about that? He's been a bright spot on this lineup right off the pole there for a home run for Kevin Pillar. So Braves take a 1-0 lead, and we thought, well, here's the spark on offense that the Braves needed. All it takes sometimes is one guy to get the spark going. That was not the case. You see the defense struggling a little bit, not being able to get in position to make plays. And here we go again. Austin Riley not able to make a play. In comes a run for the Oakland A's. This was a hit that, I think could have been grounded. Now, I'm not a professional third baseman, but there you go. A bobble by Austin Riley. Safe in the bottom of the ninth, and that's how the A's won the game last night, was on that error by Austin Riley. And so that's very uncharacteristic from the Braves defense, especially from Austin Riley there on the third base side. Very uncharacteristic. But the offense just could not get going, and I think that's a problem right now. You're playing one of the absolute worst teams in baseball right now in the Oakland A's. They've lost 11 straight games heading into this series with the Braves. They have a record of 12-45. And the last two wins before the Braves series, they were 10-45. They've won the last two games, of course, and the Braves going to really try to avoid the sweep tonight. You don't want to give that to the A's. But, like I mentioned, there's times in baseball, and this is because it's a long season. Baseball's baseball. You're going to have games that don't go your way. You're going to have games where you can't hit the ball. This is just a bad series for the Braves to have that when you're playing a team like Oakland. This is a series where you should go in and sweep. Even with the pitching struggles that the Braves have had, you should still be able to go in and sweep this series because you're playing one of the worst teams in baseball. But again, pitching is not who we need to blame for this. A lot of it has to do with the offense, and I think when you got guys like Acuna in the lineup, Matt Olson has had a really good stretch here. Sean Murphy, Ozuna has had a decent stretch as well. Those guys just haven't been able to hit the ball. And credit the pitching for the A's. I mean, it's not the best rotation or bullpen by any means in the league, but the fact that they're able to do what they've done to the Braves, Atlanta really needs to avoid the sweep tonight. Schuster is on the mound. What can he do? He had a great outing last time. I think a really good confidence booster for him. We'll see if he can get back out there and get it done tonight. But they're going to need it. They're going to need something to get this thing turned around. Bryce Elder got himself into the 8th inning last night for the first time this season, which I think was a huge bright spot for this rotation. The fact that he was able to do that, gave up 5 hits, walked a couple of guys, struck out 5 batters, and only gave up 1 run while he was out there. I like Bryce Elder and what he has going on, but there's got to be some changes on offense for sure. But Braves wrap up the series with Oakland coming up tonight. Or I think it's an afternoon game, early afternoon game there for the Braves and the A's. And the Braves will hop on the plane and come back to Atlanta and to get June started. But hopefully can wrap up May with a win tonight there in Oakland. Let's talk some college baseball. We talked Auburn baseball a few minutes ago with Brad Law. Tuscaloosa also hosting a regional. Alabama getting ready to host Boston College and Troy, which I think is going to be really fun to watch. Alabama and Troy, 2 in-state schools. Troy has been doing very well towards the end of the year, especially in the Sun Belt, and so I think it could be really cool to watch them. Nichols also coming into Tuscaloosa for this regional, and like we said, in Auburn, you've got the Auburn Tigers, you got Southern Miss, Samford, and Penn coming in. But college baseball is really good right now, and you think of some of your favorites to get to Omaha. Well, certainly I think you can say Florida. It could be a favorite to get into to Omaha. You can say maybe LSU out of the SEC, maybe Arkansas. I think Auburn definitely could make a run back to Omaha. Alabama possibly as well if they can get out of this weekend looking good. So there's so much to be excited for when it comes to SEC and college baseball. Could Vanderbilt put some consistency together and get themselves there to Omaha? That's worth talking about. Wake Forest, a team that we don't talk a lot about in other sports. They're very good at baseball this year. Could see them maybe making a run at it all. The Florida Gators, Clemson, they're strong this year as well. So could the Tigers make a run at Omaha? That's definitely the case. They've had a very strong baseball program for a number of years. One thing about baseball and what's cool is the fact that it's not, these teams that we see in all the other sports. College baseball has a lot of parity to it. I think back to a couple of years ago when North Carolina State made a run at the College World Series, had their semifinal game canceled because of COVID, which I thought was just embarrassing by the NCAA to do that, which they do a lot of embarrassing things. But to cancel that NC State game was definitely at the top of the list. Not a good look for the NCAA. But you think of a team like that, or Coastal Carolina has made runs in the past. They're a top 10 team in the country. So you get to this point of the college baseball season, and you're at the point that really anything can happen. And, I could see a team like Coastal Carolina making a run, maybe a Stanford or a Wake Forest. They've been on top a lot of the season when you look at the top 25. And so I'm excited for this college baseball postseason. We'll get into regionals this week. We'll talk much more about regionals as we move through the week, but certainly excited for some college baseball rolling in. College softball, too, is on the horizon. We've got the College World Series beginning as teams making their way out to Oklahoma City as it will begin tomorrow. And so we'll jump to a break, come back, talk some Alabama softball. They have a very familiar opponent coming up in their first game. We'll talk about it next. Stick around.
We're excited to announce that starting this April, we'll be entering into the cabinet business. With that in mind, we're going to change our name to Ted's Floors and Beyond. The Beyond encompasses everything that we do in addition to all of your flooring needs.
We've partnered with Welber Cabinet Company, who makes the highest quality cabinets in the industry.
So when you're ready for a complete kitchen or bathroom remodel, shop Ted's.
Since 1993, WM Grocery has been a major part of our local community. WM offers the very best in fresh produce and an outstanding meat department. WM also has many local products not found anywhere else and fresh sushi every day. If you need an event catered, come see Mrs. K at any WM store. Curbside pickup is also available for your online grocery orders. Be sure to download the WM app for all the deals of the week and shopper rewards. Go check them out today at any of their locations.
We take pride in our community and appreciate your business.
Hi, I'm Dr. Rodney Sneed from both CARES and Direct Primary Care. Direct Primary Care is an exciting new model of medical care growing on both the East and West Coast. It's been recommended by Forbes and the American Academy of Family Physicians and others for individuals or small businesses with or without health insurance. The pure simplicity of a membership model streamlines the burden of medical care. It eliminates 60% of the overhead. That streamlining allows providers time to focus on patients with free, no copay, no deductible, unhurried office visits or telehealth visits with minimal waiting room time. It produces same or next day appointments and access by text or telephone during and after hours. It saves you from leaving work, wasting time and getting exposed in a waiting room. And the convenience and cost with barriers removed helps one avoid letting problems like a sore throat turn into an expensive ER or hospital visit for pneumonia. If you're interested, search the web for CARES Direct Primary Care.
It's Wednesday. I'm Chase Robinson. Glad you're hanging out with us. And remember, you can like, share, comment on Facebook, and share with your friends. Let them know about Southern Sports Now. We are live each and every weekday from 10 to 11 a.m. on Facebook and YouTube on the East Alabama Now pages. You can follow us on Twitter at EAN_sports. Send us an email, EANsports23@gmail.com is how you can get in touch with us. But we are glad you are joining us. If you missed any of it, well, you can go back and watch our archived edition there on Facebook and YouTube. It is college softball World Series time, and the Alabama Crimson Tide, their 14th appearance in the Women's College World Series. They've got a tough draw. Here's so how they do the Women's College World Series. There's bracket 1 and bracket 2. Alabama's in a very tough bracket. They've got the number 1 team in Oklahoma in their bracket. They've got number 4 Tennessee, who Alabama opens up with first. Of course, number 5 Alabama's in there, and number 9 Stanford is in there. So the Tide is stuck in a bracket with the SEC champions in Tennessee, the defending national champs in the Oklahoma Sooners, and Stanford has a very, very deep pitching staff, including Freshman of the Year pitcher. So they're in a very tough bracket. There you see game 1 for Alabama is against Tennessee tomorrow. You've got Oklahoma and Stanford matched up. And then here's bracket 2. You've got Florida State taking on Oklahoma State. And then you've got Washington and Utah. So those are the 2 brackets. But this Alabama-Tennessee game is going to be a lot of fun to watch tomorrow. That is actually going to be the opening game of the Women's College World Series. And we have seen, of course, with it being 2 SEC teams, we've seen them play already this season several times. And Tennessee is leading. If you put together all the games of the year, Tennessee has won 3, Alabama has won 1. We saw them most recently last week. Tennessee beat Alabama in the SEC tournament in the semifinals. We saw Tennessee get 2 of 3. From Alabama during the regular season. And so Alabama is facing a tough Tennessee team. But Patrick Murphy likes where this softball team is at right now. Let's hear what Patrick Murphy has to say about this Alabama team.
This group, selfless, servant leaders, they are filled with mudita. I just cannot say enough good things about this group. And the whole season has been, peaks and valleys and adversity and, what happened in Arkansas to Montana. And they keep coming back for more. And that's what I love about them. They are just gritty as can be.
Alabama softball coach Patrick Murphy there, gritty as can be is what he said. They've been faced in some tough circumstances this year and have been able to come out of them, including this past weekend against a really good Northwestern team. And they were able to seal the deal on Sunday afternoon to get to their 14th College World Series. But at this point of the season, in the words of Coach Patrick Murphy, the margin of error is very small. Here's what he has to say as they prepare for the College World Series.
Well, I think, with every team there, the margin of error is like tiny, and everybody's good. The hardest part is getting there. The nerves and all those things. Like I was talking to one of my assistants, Ryan I. Murray, and before the Saturday night Northwestern game, and she's like, "Why am I so nervous?" And I said, "Because this is the hard part. Getting there is fun. Once you get there, I feel like you just play, and you just let it all hang out. And that, to me, the team that usually wins it is the team that is the most relaxed. And I've screwed up my part before, because I think the team takes on my personality, and if I'm like this, they will be too. So you might see a little more loosey-goosey from me, and just enjoy every single moment, because we're never guaranteed another one.
We'll see if they come out with that loose persona heading into Oklahoma City tomorrow as they take on Tennessee first. We mentioned bracket 1. Bracket 2 has Florida State, Oklahoma State, Washington, and Utah. But if you look at the 2 brackets next to each other, bracket 1 is definitely a tough bracket. When you look at favorites for the Women's College World Series, Oklahoma definitely has to be at the top of your list. But it would surprise me if a Tennessee or an Alabama or even a Stanford came out of bracket 1 and ended up winning the Women's College World Series, not taking anything away from a Florida State or a Washington or an Oklahoma State. But I would say whoever wins bracket 1, in my opinion, could very well win the Women's College World Series, but certainly we'll be watching Alabama as they try to get another national championship. The last time back in 2012 when Alabama beat Florida for the College World Series. But college softball, always exciting, and it gets going tomorrow on ESPN is where you can watch all of the Women's College World Series games. That is all the time we have for you today. It's been a great show. We've accomplished a lot over the last hour or so. Appreciate Brad Law for joining us from the Auburn Sports Network. Of course, Brad, Piedmont native, now with the Auburn Sports Network. Appreciate him. We will be back with you tomorrow at 10 a.m. to get going another day of Southern Sports Now. Plenty of Braves talk, SEC baseball, SEC football talk as well with the spring meetings. We'll have an update from there. All that coming up on the show tomorrow. But have a great rest of your Wednesday. We'll talk to you tomorrow for more Southern Sports Now on East Alabama Now.